Welcome to the Carousel of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Allie Wagner. On last week's episode, you met Boulder-based intuitive healer and teacher, Deborah Keys. Deborah is a psychic who specializes in a modality called house healing. You learned what house healing is, how it improves mood and overall well-being, and how to know if your space needs a healing. Plus, Deborah gave us her professional opinion about the healing energy of the carousel. On today's episode, I'll take you behind the scenes of Deborah's visit to the carousel. She stopped by last week when we were closed and used her house healing and reading skills to tidy up the space and give us some specific insights into what's going on inside the carousel from an energetic perspective. Plus, she connected to a special figure in the carousel, a specific angel who is protecting the space. Find out who it is on this episode of the podcast. But before we get to that, I want to share we are gearing up for our big annual fundraiser called Animals After Dark. As the name suggests, we meet at the carousel in the evening for dinner and drinks. Plus, this year we'll have a scavenger hunt with prizes and a very special theme. As you know, dear listener, this year is the carousel's 15th anniversary or 15th birthday, as it were. And to celebrate this occasion, we are asking guests to show up dressed like their 15-year-old self. That's right, dig out your favorite pair of bell-bottoms, give yourself an asymmetrical haircut, or maybe find that perfect grunge-inspired flannel. We want to celebrate our big milestone by asking each of you to attend while tapped into your own 15-year-old self's energy. Who were you at 15? How did you express yourself? What was your authentic identity? For teenagers especially, clothes can be a huge part of our expression of identity. Did you wear what everyone else was wearing at the time? Did you follow trends, or maybe did you want to stand out? How did you stand out? Maybe, perhaps, you weren't the most authentic version of yourself in high school. If you could do it all over again, who would you be? Because the Carousel of Happiness is at a similar stage in our development. We've spent the last 15 years coming into ourselves, first by building the carousel and the building, then by welcoming folks into this unique space, and now at age 15, we look toward the future. Who are we moving forward? How do we show up authentically as ourselves? Now, at age 15, the Carousel of Happiness looks toward the empty canvas in front of us, and we begin to play with what is possible. The play begins with Animals After Dark on November 11th, Veterans Day, where we'll celebrate where we've been and we'll look toward where we're going. We'd love it if you could join us. We'll talk more about the event in the future on the podcast, but in the meantime, you can check out tickets and more details in the show notes. If you buy your ticket before October 11th, you receive $10 off. Now, without further ado, let us begin with today's story. When Deborah Keys does a house healing for a home or a business, it typically takes her about an hour and a half to 2 hours. She can do her work both physically in person or remotely on Zoom. Even though she works with spaces, she doesn't actually need to be in the space to read its energy. But she came up to the carousel because I was eager to give her a private tour and watch how she works in person. We start by entering the carousel gate and moving toward the left, toward the Wonder Gate. As we pass the south side of the building, I point to the center pole and the massive electric motor. Both have been part of this carousel since it began spinning in Salt Lake City in 1910. Scott is often called the center pole the soul of the carousel because in his view, it has collected the joyful screams and shouts of every single person who has ridden it for the last 15 years. Deborah likes this idea a lot. It is true, she says, items collect and store the energy of those who use them over time. As an example, she recommends that if you buy something at Goodwill or an antique store, that you clear its energy before you bring it into your home. You can do this by burning some sage or saying a prayer. You can run it under clean water. If appropriate, you can run it through the washing machine or the dishwasher. It doesn't matter what you do so much as the intention you apply to whatever you're doing. As we pass by the motor, Deborah notices the massive quartz crystal in the center of the circle. I explained to her that it was a gift from Roy Young, the owner of the rock shop in town. Deborah also notices the smaller crystals sprinkled at its feet, all left behind by riders who wanted to amplify the love. Deborah begins taking pictures of the animals now as I explain to her how Scott carved them. One at a time, spending 3 to 6 months on each one. Learning about them, researching them, getting to know them. Taking time to understand what they meant to different cultures, their significance to different people. She asked me about the gong. I explained to her that's how we start the ride, every single ride, with intention and with wonder. I point out the koala next to the gong. I explain that it was carved with someone special in mind. When one of Scott's friends, a grief counselor, lost her first daughter, Scott approached her to see if he could carve something in her daughter's honor. His friend agreed, and now, deep within the belly of this special bear lies a tribute to a special little girl named Elise. Now, her mother and Elise's 2 siblings come to the carousel every year on her birthday to celebrate and honor her. As we wrap around the north side of the building, I point out the Somewhere Else wall. A tribute and an acknowledgement that some of us are here and some of us are somewhere else. Visitors are invited to bring notes to loved ones, which can be left in 2 small openings along the wall. In the wall also are ashes of those who have passed, photos of loved ones, and various mementos, including rocks blown apart by IEDs in Afghanistan. As we continue our circle, we stop at our own little Vietnam War Veterans Memorial. There are 2 plaques and 2 photos with 2 carefully folded American flags. I explain that the Carousel of Happiness is dedicated to the memory of 2 special Marines. 2 Marines who served with Scott in Vietnam. Christian Langenfeld and Paul Christmas. Both died in combat on the very day Scott was injured. Christian, or Chris as he was known, was gentle and kind. When he told his friends he was leaving high school early to join the Marines, they were shocked and tried to convince him otherwise. He joined Scott's machine gun squad in 1967 when he was just 18 years old. According to Scott, seeing such a gentle human being behind a .30 caliber machine gun felt odd, like it was a mismatch. Paul Christmas was born in Newark, New Jersey. He was kind and compassionate, and he made everyone laugh during a time that they needed it most. Scott remembers one day when he got assigned to a nighttime listening post after a long day of patrolling. Scott didn't want to go. He was tired. And as he was leaving the perimeter for his assignment, with a sad, mopey look on his face, his friend Paul ran after him with a big smile and a fruit cup. He gave Scott a highly coveted and sought-after item for Marines in Comtiègne at the time, a fruit cup. Paul's big smile and that fruit cup were just what Scott needed to get through his assignment. We pass the memorial and sit on the benches along the south side of the building. Deborah is ready to begin the healing and the reading. The sun is warm on our backs as Deborah closes her eyes to enter a meditative state. When Deborah does a house healing, she starts by taking a tour of the space, just like we did, and then sitting in meditation. Once in a meditative state, she's able to psychically view the space to see if there are any energetic obstacles. I close my eyes too, and I wait to hear the sound of her voice. We are not in silence very long. Deborah tells me that the energy of the carousel is very, very powerful. She hasn't seen anything like it. According to Deborah, the carousel's energy radiates beyond the physical limits of the building itself, which is unusual. Psychically, the energy is bigger than the physical space itself. She compares the carousel to a lighthouse. It's radiating its healing energy out into the town itself. Deborah tells me that she gets the sense that life in Nederland can be harsh. I laugh a little because it is true. Living in this town at 8,000 feet above sea level when the wind whips relentlessly is not for the faint of heart. She explains that the healing energy of the carousel is so powerful that it has started to overflow into the town itself. Essentially, Nederland is receiving a healing from the carousel all the time. Deborah's amused. Typically, when she works on a space, there are bits of energetic obstacles here and there. That's actually not the case at the carousel, apparently. In fact, Deborah doesn't really want to change the energy of the carousel house so much. It is clear to her that the energy is pure and it is working. She explains that part of the reason for this is that the healing energy of the carousel is so strong that it actually is transmuting negative energy as soon as it enters the space. Unlike other places where the healing energy isn't so strong, negative energy can accumulate over time. But the carousel is unique in that its healing energy is so powerful that it's essentially transmuting the negative energy almost immediately as it enters the space. All of those details I mentioned in our tour are part of the reason the healing energy is so strong. Each animal that was dedicated in someone's memory, each person who's had the opportunity to heal or remember a loved one here, all of those layers have built and accumulated over time to create this powerful healing force. Take the animals, for instance. Through Scott's process of learning about the animals and connecting to each one, he has created an environment where each animal has its own healing frequency, and all of those frequencies are complementing each other, working with one another. Basically, each animal has a job, has a role, has a medicine it provides, and they're doing that job in concert with one another. When Deborah does her healing work, in spaces, she'll go through each room of the building with the occupant and ask them how they'd like to set the energy of the space moving forward. She does the same for us at the Carousel. In the Carousel house, she asked me how we'd like to set the energetic tone or frequency of the room. She notes there's plenty of healing and plenty of love already in the space, and I suggest that she adds childlike wonder to the overall tone. As we've already learned on the podcast together, colors have energy and frequency, so she sets the Carousel house to the frequency of orange and pink. Two colors known for sparking creativity, imagination, love, and joy, or in our case, childlike wonder. Deborah explains that unlike the Carousel house, the energy of the gift shop does have a little lingering energy that can be cleaned up. She closes her eyes, tidies everything up from our spot on the bench. She does not move. When she asked me what energetic frequency we'd like to set for the gift shop, we decide on gold and green. Green represents balance and harmony, and gold is the highest healing frequency available. She imbues all of the objects in the gift shop with the healing energy of the carousel itself, allowing that energy to go home with the person who buys a shirt or a mug, for example. We go through the rest of the carousel and set the tone for the puppet theater to the frequency of creativity, and the birthday party room gets a big dose of some serious birthday party vibes. As we're going through the rooms, she offers some suggestions for improving the energy of other spaces. The puppet theater, for example, could benefit from some more light, she tells me. And she does the same thing with her clients. She'll walk through the space and give the occupant suggestions for furniture placement or little things they can do to alter the flow of energy in the space. This is her feng shui training, and she just can't help but share it. When I ask her if she has some tips for listeners on how they can improve the energy of their homes, she tells me make sure your front door is beautiful and accessible. That is very important in feng shui. It helps the good luck find you. This also means it's important that your house numbers are visible and that there's lighting at the front door. She tells me clearing clutter is good for the energy of spaces as well. She also suggests fixing things as soon as they're broken rather than waiting. All of these small acts impacts the clarity of the energetic signal your home puts out. There are other ways you can heal your space on your own. You can smudge with sage, burn incense, or diffuse essential oils throughout your home. Music helps too. Playing high vibration classical music or meditative music can change the overall frequency of the space and have an impact on how you feel when you're in it. Once we're done setting the energetic frequencies of the rooms in the carousel, she tells me she's going to go look for angels in the carousel house. Energetic beings who are watching over the carousel from their place in the spirit world. She closes her eyes and then points to the cherubs in the sweeps. There, she says. She can see a young African-American man with a crown on his head. The crown is far too large, but he's wearing it joyfully. He's got a little wand or a scepter that he's waving in a very silly, goofy way. She sort of chuckles to herself. All of a sudden, the hair on my arms stands on end. My mouth drops. Deborah opens her eyes and she looks at me. "What?" she asks. I point over her shoulder to the Vietnam War Veterans Memorial, the one we had just passed. And I point to the picture of Scott's friend, Paul Christmas. A picture of a young, goofy African-American man. We both look at each other, and she nods. Paul Christmas. It was him, just as Scott had described him in the past. Silly, goofy, with a big smile on his face and a joyful heart, waving a wand, still healing others through laughter when they need it most. Deborah explains to me that this angel, Paul, works at the Carousel and also at other places, but the Carousel is his primary home. And he specializes in the healing of men. It makes complete and total sense to me. A young man who died at the age of 21 years old, surrounded by other men who were hurting, who now feels attached to a place of joy and laughter made by his friend Scott. In retrospect, I wish I had asked Deborah if he was holding a fruit cup. Overall, Deborah stresses that what makes the Carousel's energy so healing is that it's been compounded over time. Beginning in Salt Lake with all the visitors in their fancy dresses enjoying a wholesome afternoon out, to the residents at the Utah State Training School engaging in some play therapy at Fairyland. All the way up to Scott, who gathers the frame and starts to heal himself one animal at a time. Not to mention the 1.3 million visitors who have walked through these doors and laughed and cried and healed in this space. Plus, the layers of thought and intention that went into the Carousel's creation. When Scott sat down to research each animal he was carving, he learned about them, he got to know them, and this allowed him to imbue each animal with their own unique medicine, with their own unique flavor of healing. And they all somehow now work together in concert. Not to mention the memorials, like the koala or the somewhere else wall, details in this place that carry with them meaning and intention that has accumulated and built on itself as well. Plus the gifts. The Carousel of Happiness has been the beneficiary of generous gifts throughout the years. Whether it was the gift of the quartz crystal in the center from Roy at the rock shop, or the volunteers who gave their time to build the building itself, or the cash donations in the jar at the front desk, each of these acts is their own energetic contribution to the healing thumbprint of this place. Above all, it's important to note that the highest healing vibration available to us is love. Each and every act that took place in the creation of the Carousel of Happiness was an act of love. And that love is what makes this place so healing. Scott sometimes gets fussy with me because he thinks I give him credit for knowing this stuff ahead of time. I want to go on record as saying he did not know any of this. He didn't read any books on healing or energy or how to create a healing space. But that is what I think is part of the magic of this place. He didn't know. He didn't know with his conscious mind that any of this would play out the way it did. He didn't start this project in 1986 anticipating that in 40 years a psychic would come along and validate his work. No. Instead, in each and every moment he had a choice, he chose love. Love for himself, love for others, love for the community. In the end, no one knows what they're doing, even if they tell you otherwise. But as we've seen at the Carousel of Happiness, if you lean into love deliberately and consciously over time, that love will build. It will accumulate. And what I learned from Deborah's visit is that love has the ability to transmute and transform any negative energy that comes its way. If you are interested in receiving a house healing from Deborah, she's accepting new clients both in person and remote. You can check out a link to her business, Divine House Healing, in the show notes. In the meantime, take care. Be well. And as we like to say at the Carousel of Happiness, don't delay joy. And we'll see you next time around.
Beginnings and endings are only pretendings. I'll see you next time around.